Hello, everybody. Like Rhea said, I'm Jesse King. I'm one of the outreach managers on the New Buildings program. So yeah, it was just such a pleasure to work with this team and to really be part of this project. It's a great space that they've created there. And I'm gonna let the design team like really get into the details here. We have a really nice snapshot of the project, of the work they did, and how Energy Trust was able to help out. I mean, really what I wanted to say to everyone is just to let you all know that we have an amazing team of outreach managers across the state to really help you out with all different types of projects, different regions of the state. We are everywhere, and we are around and able to help. Our role is really to be an advocate for the customer, for the project, and to point you in the right direction. To just maximize the Energy Trust incentives that you can get. In this case, as you can see, the project was able to get incentives for their heat pump, for energy recovery, their envelope, and their solar array. Again, the team is going to touch in detail about all that, but we were excited to be able to provide $29,000 in incentives, possibly a little bit more. There's one or two things we're still looking at, but then it's the gift that keeps on giving, because $7,600 in expected energy savings every year, so that goes right back into the program that Literary Arts is able to provide. We have these snapshot slides. I like to think of them as like baseball cards for the New Buildings program. They're just quick little snapshots where you can get an idea for the types of incentives that are available. So if there's a project that's a similar scope, we have these available to review, and we use these in various presentations as we're out at events, at conferences, things like that. So we can also help just kind of amplify your messaging and the success you've had with different projects. So these are one of the tools we have to do that. And then the last thing I just wanted to point out is that a lot of people on this call might be familiar with working with Energy Trust. Maybe you've been involved recently or not so recently, but we have so many new things coming out that I just would encourage you to reach out to find out what's new. Our whole building offering is changing. There's some new exciting things coming to the whole building offering. We have new incentives for kind of flexible load, designing around flexible load. And even our standard incentives, our standard incentives for things like heat pumps have expanded a little bit to different building types, and even ducted systems now can qualify. So there's lots of new things going on with the program, and I would encourage everyone to reach out to find out what's new. We'd love to drop by, your firm to do like a lunch and learn, so we can keep you informed of what's new with the program and figure out how we can be of most support to any projects that you're working on. So
thank you.
And with that, I would just love to turn it over to the team and to Amy to just introduce the project and all the great features they were able to do. So thank you so much,
Jesse. Awesome.
Thank you.
Amy, we'll hand it over to you. And as you're pulling that up, I just had one more reminder. There is 1.5 AIA HSW credits for today. So if you didn't put your member number in the registration, send it in the chat and we're going to make sure that you get your credits. So Amy, pass it over to you.
Great. And is everyone seeing my screen?
Looks gorgeous. Look at that building.
Great. Well, we are very excited to come to you today to chat about this really, really special project. And I will say this project is really all about community, the community of people who came together to do this, the community of writers and readers and audience members who will engage with this place every day for many, many years to come. And I want to really reinforce how helpful and how important ETO was to our whole process. You know, for a nonprofit that is raising every single dollar that it put into this project, to have those extra incentives and to be able to make some of the choices we did that made this building much more sustainable is a big deal. So I just want to thank ETO for having us today, but also for all of the help in the project. So there are 4 of us here today to present to you. My name is Amy Donahue. I play 2 roles on this project. I am principal in charge of the project with Bora Architecture and Interiors. And I am also currently the chair of the board of directors for Literary Arts. So I will be speaking to you today wearing 2 different hats. Kate, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kate Stewart. I'm an associate and interior designer at Bora Architecture and Interiors, and I will be talking us through the design concept and the design vision for the space, and we'll even be able to share our final professional photography. And even well before I worked on this project, loved literary arts, the Portland Book Festival, been going to that for years, so this was sort of a dream project for me.
Corey.
Corey Spire. I am Sustainability Director at Bora Architects, and I led the sustainability initiatives on this project. I'll give a quick disclaimer that I'm zooming in from Carlsbad, New Mexico, and my internet is iffy. So when I get to my section, I'll turn off my camera for greater bandwidth, but I wanted to say hi to everyone now.
Great. Ray, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. And my name is Ray. I am the Associate Director of Operations at Literary Arts. I'm here mainly today to learn more from Bora, as I've done throughout this process, and also to talk a little bit about how the building is being put into use and how the efficient energy model has been able to help us put more investment into our programming.
Great. Ray was pretty central to this whole project. She herded all the various cats who were a part of it. I also want to acknowledge our partners in this project who are, hey, some of you may be on the call today. KPFF was our structural engineer. We invested heavily in this building with a big seismic upgrade to give this building a longer sort of life, and they were part of it from the start. Vega was also with Martha, was part of the project. PAE, Brad Wilson and his team really jumped in. Evelyn & Co., Jill Sherman, basically donated her time to be the owner's rep for the project and really spent a lot of time and put a lot of care into this. And finally, O'Neill Construction was our partner who came in to build the project. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about literary arts and give you some background. Corey will talk through the sustainability approach, and then I'll come back and share with you a bit sustainability from the standpoint of equity. We really wanted to make sure that this place was connected to the community. So I'll talk about visioning and community engagement. And then Kate will follow up with the design approach and some of the analysis. And then for the grand finale, we'll hear from Ray and really understand how the organization is using this place. So starting with literary arts, this organization was founded in 1984. So it is 42 years old. Bora has always been connected to literary arts. Pat Harrington, dear friend and former partner here at Bora, was instrumental. He gave Julie Mancini, who was the first executive director, office space, free office space at Bora, so that she could work to launch this. And we have been connected to literary arts ever since as a firm. And as Kate noted, many of us are big readers, so connected to the organization individually too. And I think what's special about literary arts is that the mission is focused on 3 communities. One, the idea is that we really need to engage readers to help them to hear stories of others, to help them find their own stories. We also support writers, and that is through a host of different activities, whether writing workshops, we have the book festival, we also have writing fellowships that are part of what the organization does, so that writers can get a little bit of a little bit of lift and be able to take some time to do their writing. And then in terms of inspiring the next generation with great literature, we are very focused on youth and bringing them into the conversation around literature. We serve about 4,000 high school students per year. And as you'll see in the building, we're able to begin hosting a younger audience too with our new space. So Literary Arts has many programs. Up on the upper left, you probably know we are the largest literary lecture series in the country with a sold out 2,700 seat hall at the Schnitz. We bring 5 really internationally noted artists to the Schnitz every year for a lecture. On the upper right, we also use the Schnitz and that very large stage and platform to host Verslandia, which is high school student poetry slam championship. And if you have not been to this, I highly encourage it. It's usually in April, and it is you will be hopeful for the future when you hear these young people share their work. It's pretty incredible. And then finally, one of the other big programs that we have is the Book Festival, the Portland Book Festival, which has been in operation for about 11 years. And this year we had 8,500 people in downtown Portland in the park blocks over the course of one day to hear a little over 100 writers from all over the world. So Literary Arts has really been able to make a big impact in our city as well by hosting some of these events. So we have designed a few places for literary arts. This was the old home on Southwest Washington in the Pittock block. And at first we designed the 2 left bays, kind of the left bay of this floor plan and the center bay. And then the organization just continued to be successful and to grow and really need more space. So we took over the 3rd. So this was the home of literary arts up until about a year ago, and it was 4,000 square feet. And I think because our programs have been extremely successful and the sort of growth of the organization to support the needs of the community and what they're asking in terms of programming, we were starting to go from, we had 9 staff maybe when I first started working with the organization, and now they're up to 32, 33. So it is a growing organization, and we really needed to make a new space so that it would work and we could support all those people in doing that community work. We also wanted to have a long-term home that really reflected literary arts values. And that is where we searched about 40 buildings, and we found this one, 716 Southeast Grand. Lawrence Brune actually had purchased this building and had done a light renovation, really kind of taking it back down to its bones, which were quite good. Beautiful floors and gorgeous brick on the interior, quite a bit of history in the building. And we walked in and we said, this is it. This really feels like literary arts. And so Susan Hammer, who was a board member, sadly passed away, and in her estate, she left enough to purchase this building outright. So we actually were able to start the project as the owner of the building, which is highly unusual. And we feel so fortunate every day that Susan was able to do that for literary arts. So this new building was about 15,000 square feet. So you can see on the left, literary arts was 4,000 square feet and doing an incredible amount of work. But we were really excited to see what we could do for the community in 15,000 square feet. So this is just a comparison of the two. And I think in owning a building, we also really wanted to think about how sustainable could we make it? What are the systems? How do we make sure that we can make this building go long and far in the distance? And the idea of renovating a building was also something very attractive as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Corey, who's going to talk a little bit about how this 100-year-old building found its story.
All right, so we started this process with a sustainability visioning charrette. This is how we start all of our projects. And this one coincided with the ETO Early Design Assistance Workshop. And our theme here was the 100-year-old building finds its story. I'll talk a little bit about this process of our charrettes. We typically come up with themes that we want to explore, and we dig into some specific areas. For this project, we wanted to explore 3 themes: indoor environment, carbon reduction, both operational carbon and embodied carbon, and then resilience, specifically climate resilience over the coming, let's say, next 100 years. So let's look at each of these just for to pull out some pointers. We dug into, well, from an interior environmental standpoint, we wanted to look at light, we wanted to look at sound, we wanted to look at air quality, but we really dug into material selection, right? Our projects kind of utilize this diagram that calls out hazardous materials that are common in the built environment that we just don't use in our project. So we use this as an early indicator of how we would think about our material selection. We also looked at air quality. Portland has wonderful air quality the vast majority of the year, and often indoor air quality is worse than outdoor air quality. So we wanted to make sure that we are creating a space that is healthy for the people who spend time there, both visitors and the staff, but also with the recognition that sometimes out of the year we have wildfire events. We have other times when there might not be great outdoor air quality. So we want to make sure that this was a refuge as well. So we look closely at our systems. And then daylight and electric lights. Being this is a kind of a zero lot line building and it's an infill site, we had light on two sides with the front and the back. And we did a lot of analysis to make sure that we're getting the quality of the light that we wanted for reading or in the space. Next category or next topic we explored was carbon emissions. And here we really dug into this idea of building fuel. There was an existing gas furnace that had been installed not that long ago in this earlier renovation that Amy had mentioned. And we felt like for a variety of reasons that it wasn't the most appropriate energy use. We really wanted to find a way of powering this building, mostly with the sun. So this is kind of the palette that you have. You have electrical grid systems, you have gas, and you have solar. And we ended up eliminating the gas, partially in thanks to the ETO incentives, emphasizing the solar on this project. And we end up having about 25% of the energy use of the project offset by the solar that's on the roof, and the other 75% delivered by the grid. Third topic was resilience. And we have experienced a lot of crazy events in the past couple of years. We had the heat dome in 21. We had an ice storm, I think it was 2023 or 24. But we knew that we had to design this building that it would be able to respond to whatever the climate threw at us. It also included wildfire smoke, which is increasingly becoming a concern in our area. We want to look at sealing the windows, which is a significant challenge in an existing building, and also looking how we were going to deal with ventilation and filtration. And then it wasn't that long ago that we emerged from this pandemic that required us to think more deeply about indoor air quality from the perspective of indoor pollutants. So how do we make sure that the building can open up, that the air could be exchanged quickly, and that if we do have a future pandemic, the building would be fully operational rather than having to shut down like so many buildings did during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we had this conversation with the design team and the owners and some community members, and we used these concepts to create performance goals. Now, usually we come up with a bulleted list of like 3 or 4 performance goals. But for this project, we decided to dig into the literary theme, and we wrote a narrative performance goal. So I won't read the whole thing, but just very briefly to summarize, at the turn of the 21st century, almost everything was local. Building materials, but also energy resources. When this building was first constructed, it would have been powered with a wood burning stove because that was the primary energy at the time. And we wanted to make a connection between the local resources of the wood burning stove to power the building 100 years ago and using sun today, right? Because the sun is the ultimate energy source for trees that then produce wood that then gets burnt, or you can capture that directly in solar panels and use clean electricity to power buildings today. So we wanted to create a full circle where this building started out burning wood, it switched over to gas, which was this distant, less connected form of energy, and then bring it back home, emphasizing solar panels. So that was our building performance narrative. Maybe we'll share this. Maybe we can email this out to attendees if people want to read the story.
I like that idea. Well, I know Corey is now headed to, let's see if I can find there we go. Corey is he's in Carlsbad, as he noted, but he's headed now to run a sustainability charrette in Carlsbad for that high school. So I just want to thank Corey for being here today and helping us along through the project.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry I have to jump off early. I'm going to do the same narrative for this project as well. So we'll keep the kind of spirit of literary arts living on. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Corey. So as part of, at Bora, we think of sustainability as climate, health, and equity. And, from an equity standpoint, we see that as really involving the community in design. And not just at the beginning, with a pile up of questions and answers, but throughout the process, kind of as the questions change and the detail emerges from the project, to kind of constantly be in conversation with the community. And so literary arts is also very focused on equity, trying to make sure that many different kinds of stories from different people are heard and that there can be an exchange. And so this was a way to live their values through the process. So in terms of internally to literary arts, we had visioning sessions with every single council, Portland Book Festival, the youth programs, Oregon Book Awards. There are a number of different committees that we met with to get their feedback. Of course, we met with the board of directors and we had extensive meetings with staff. So really trying to understand the needs, the functional needs, as well as the vision for the project. And then we had a really important group who I would say significantly impacted the design, and Kate will talk about this in a bit, but we invited 20 BIPOC community members, leaders, who were writers, readers, business leaders, audience members, certainly, and nonprofit leaders. And we invited them to help us envision, what would this place look like? How could it be welcoming to a much broader base of the community? How could we make sure that, right now, well, before the building, your way of interfacing with literary arts was to buy a ticket to an event. And how could we really make a space where people could come and write and convene and be together in a totally different way? And so we convened this group. One of the great things about this project is we had an existing building that had heat, the wrong kind of heat, but it had heat, and it was finished enough that we could actually be in the space before construction started, so people could understand what it felt like and talk a little bit more about what needed to be done to it. So we convened this group 8 different times, and we brought them to the space. We had visioning sessions. We tried to capture all of the vocabulary and words that were being used, as well as just some comments on images. For the space program, this group listed a number of things that we did not even have on our radar that are now physically built today in the space. The great thing about this group too is that as advocates, they connected to their own communities. And so we are still connected to this group as an organization. And, we invited a number of them to come to various lectures and other events that Literary Arts has, so that they really could feel embedded and a lot of ownership in the process. This is Mo King in the lower right. He was always the selfie taker. And then a number of writers all around the table who participated in this process. So this was a really important driver of the design. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Kate, who's going to talk about that design approach.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So like Amy was saying, if you go to the next slide, Amy, the community engagement really informed our design approach for this project. And through working with our community design advocates and the literary arts staff, we came up with this really great design concept in which we immerse storytellers, writers, and readers in an analog and authentic place that weaves storytelling with design. Evoking cozy and inspiring connection, literary arts is your favorite bookstore, cup of coffee, writing retreat, or reading nook. And we had a number of design goals here to meet that concept, which really included embracing the authentic structure and systems and material and that great character of the existing building. And to also create this tactile experience with lots of unplugged analog entertainment, i.e. books. We also, for color, wanted to really balance all that warmth that we were getting from the Doug fir, the wood structure, and the red brick, and bring in some cooler color tones that were inspired by the sort of natural color palette that we see in the Pacific Northwest. We also talked a lot about providing warmth and coziness through lighting and contrast, but even through talking with our community design advocates, had this idea of like warm smells, welcoming smells. So the cafe serving soups and coffee and just smelling great too. We also wanted to make this building really iconic and make it a beacon for the literary community. So it really draws people in. And lastly, have plenty of cozy corners for folks to retreat to with inviting seating that doesn't feel too formal or pristine. So these goals really led us to create this like look and feel board that feels analog and authentic with lots of wood and exposed bricks, books, and that tactile character. If you see the little image on the bottom though, we weren't able to accommodate a real bookstore cat due to allergy concerns, but I believe there is a stuffed animal bookstore cat that you can meet when you go. So I'm going to go talk through the plans next and orient you in the building, and then we can look at some renderings and inspiration, and then end with some finished photography and some of the analysis of the space. So on the ground floor of Literary Arts is their new cafe and bookstore with a couple classrooms and restrooms towards the back. And the quotes on this axon drawing are feedback and ideas we gathered from our community engagement. Some of the feedback we heard was to give agency to adjust or choose space, creating a space that's cozy and comfortable, but not too quiet, and providing space for families. And we really responded to those comments by creating spaces to retreat to with some cozy nooks, providing a place for kids that we were not planning on doing, and also spaces for the community to gather and be loud. So all of these bookshelves in the bookstore are actually on wheels and can be moved away, and that turns the bookstore into a larger event space for literary arts to program. Up above on the next floor, overlooking that bookstore, is this great mezzanine space that has even more books for sale up there, drawing people up further into the space. It also has a large meeting classroom they can host events in and workshops and classes. And the community really wanted us to keep that sense of openness and largeness that they felt when we first found the building. And or everywhere you look, you can see something happening. So we really wanted to keep that mezzanine open and a real feature of the space. But we also wanted to create these like lovely little moments of retreat. So there are even more cozy reading nooks towards the back of the mezzanine, as well as spaces to kind of sit and look over the bookstore along the balcony. And then up on the second floor is where the staff works. So this is only for staff, and we have a few private offices as well as open office workstations in the center of the space. And our main focus here was to maintain as much access to daylight as possible and to solve some of the acoustic issues the staff was having in their previous office. And they also wanted their own break room space with lots of natural lighting and a place for them to retreat in more comfortable lounge seating away from their desk. There's also a lower level that I didn't include a plan of because it's not that interesting, but that lower level is primarily support spaces for the cafe, storage for all the bookstore needs, but it also has some additional restrooms and a lactation room and another meeting space. So this rendering view we did of the bookstore showing the cafe towards the back under the mezzanine, and our idea to have a future muralist do a large piece of art in the space. And you can see how we're sort of using that dark blue color to balance the warm wood tones, and that graphic pattern on that cafe tile really helps draw you in to the space.
I will say before Kate, before you move on, the bookstore manager says that everyone who comes in, she's amazed at how often they ask what the name of that blue is. So it is a very popular color.
A popular paint color. This rendering is of our cozy kids nook that we provided next to the cafe. It's sort of at the back of the bookstore, and they wanted a place where they would be able to host little storytelling events for kids, and they wanted this area to feel a bit more protected from the larger bookstore, sort of tucking it under the mezzanine to provide that more intimate feeling. It's a little bit safer and more quiet for the kids. Then this rendering is up on your mezzanine. You have that large meeting room to the left and the bookstore below on the right. And so really keeping that sense of openness and lightness, providing access to daylight to the mezzanine, and that sense of awe that everyone got excited about when they first toured the building. And now we're jumping to the professional photography of the project. And I love that you see the mosaic tile signage here on the floor. And that sort of tells part of the story of what this building was before, but then we're adding our own literary arts story onto the building too by adding this iconic bookmark logo to the front of the building and painting the front door the literary arts red color. And love these photos. This is the bookstore on opening day, so packed with books and literary community all coming together. So the events here can either keep the bookshelves in place, or sometimes they move it out of the way to get more floor space. I'm sure Ray can elaborate on all that later, but providing an area to place all the chairs for a longer speaking event in the basement. But then also want to note, we don't have a professional photo yet because that artist mural I mentioned isn't done yet, but we're really excited to see that go in, and that'll be really exciting to photograph. This photo captures the checkout counter and greeter, as well as the existing brick wall and built-in seating along the windows. And the books can be displayed behind the seating, so people walking along the sidewalk might be drawn inside to go shopping and then learn more about literary arts. And then again, the tables along the window can be moved apart or together to accommodate different size groups. And we also wanted to provide chairs with and without arms to accommodate different needs and preferences for people. Sometimes having arms makes it easier for someone to get in and out of a chair. Likewise, someone might prefer a chair without. So really wanted that variety. And that really came with our conversations with the community. At the cafe, we introduced a really graphic tile, again, to kind of draw you in and almost pay homage to some of the existing mosaic tiles that existed in the building before. And this tile is actually from a Californian company called Fire Clay, and they actually hand make all of their tiles locally. So they maintain that kind of level of human craft and character. And by reaching out to them and telling them literary arts story, they actually offered to donate the tile to this project, which was really amazing. And then the photo on the right shows one of our cozy nooks below the new stairs to the mezzanine. And I've heard this is a very popular spot for people to come when they visit. Upstairs on the mezzanine, there are even more bookshelves and places to sit and read and write, and a photo of the window seating in the entry on the right side there. And in both of these photos, you'll see the seismic bracing, which was a huge addition to the building to make it as safe as possible during a potential earthquake. And bringing all that steel into the building was quite a feat of engineering. And it really just shows the level of dedication and love that is required to preserve this 100-year-old building. Up on the second floor, we get to the staff workspace. The private offices were actually one area where we determined it was best to insulate the brick and provide a more comfortable environment for the staff that would be occupying those spaces for such long periods. So behind the blue wall in the background there is where the masonry has been covered up, but otherwise masonry and wood throughout this project is exposed. I think it really gives you that psychological feeling of warmth that drywall just can't really provide. And then another image here on the right featuring Ray. This is kind of an open collaboration space on the staff floor that just, and it's showcasing that was before this building was built, there's an old painted sign on the adjacent building that we were able to maintain in the space, and love that dappled light coming through that beautiful tree out front. Now on to some of the analysis for the project. Go to the next slide. Like I mentioned a bit through the design, one of our goals was to maintain daylight as a primary lighting source. And so we did a lot of spatial daylight analysis to study the space and inform our design as much as possible. And for glare issues in an existing building like this, that meant window shades. You know, there's not a lot we can do, but we were able to let this help us inform where rooms and full height walls would do the most, you know, harm and blocking all that light deeper into the space, especially up on the staff floor. We additionally studied heat gain and HVAC through energy modeling studies. This building has, you know, existing uninsulated masonry walls, single pane windows, and an existing gas furnace that we determined was really important to replace. 43% of the building's energy use is heating. And our biggest finding here was comparing the gas heating system to electric or a heat pump. And there is a significant reduction for both. You can see in those gray diagrams. Electric and heat pump heating use electricity, which can obviously be offset by on-site PV or supplied by more renewable sources from PGE like hydro, wind, or solar. And this graphic shows our model results in blue compared to the Architecture 2030 target and the Path Net Zero and whole building pathway targets. And our projected model results had us sitting at a 20.5 EUI with PV and 29.4 without. And so next, I think Amy and Ray are going to talk about some of the actual outcomes we gathered through measured energy performance and sort of the everyday use of the space.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, Ray, I'll toss it to you after, but the outcomes of this from a building performance side is, you know, we have all electric operations, low embodied carbon, you know, the idea of investing in this existing building, and then pretty great energy performance, which really is, I think, starting to give dividends to the organization. This is just a picture of the embodied carbon, and we try to track all of these on all of our various projects. You know, obviously the existing building helps that number quite a bit. And then the measured energy performance, there is a 64% reduction in terms of what the organization is needing to purchase. So Ray, I'll hand it over to you if you would like to share what the building is like and how you're using it.
Absolutely. I think Amy, you're spot on. Just walking into the building has a very warm and safe feeling. Literary Arts have been in this building for about a year. In fact, we're about to have our belated 1 year anniversary celebration in the building, where we will, as Kate described, move all the bookcases aside and create more space to welcome our constituents in. We're just very grateful for Bora, of course, for your thoughtful partnership, especially on the energy efficiency side. And also want to give a shout out to Energy Trust and Jesse for your continued support and your advocacy. The sustainability model doesn't only align closely with Literary Arts values, but it also yields actual energy cost savings that allow us to program more free and public events. To this date, the Bookstore Commons have hosted 91 free and public events that have welcomed thousands of readers and writers into the space, many of which are very new to literary arts. So we've been able to expand our community within the 1 year. And the very first event in this space that you are looking at right now is actually by one of our community design advocates, Grace Dancoli. She did her very first novel book launch called Edge of Water at Literary Arts Space, and that really opened a whole new chapter for us. And we continue our partnership with her in that sense as well. In the classrooms, as Kate has described, we have also we have been hosting 8 to 10 writing classes and reader seminars weekly. We have welcomed high school students in to do a field trip tour, as well as our youth programs College Essay Exchange, which is part of the attempt to help high school students find mentors. And we have hosted other forms of events in the space, play reading, we have small concerts, we have hosted OPB's Think Out Loud Radio live taping in the space, family-friendly activities, story time, crafts time, and other partner organizations have also been able to utilize this space. And just from a staff point of view, I'm just so happy to come to work every day. First of all, being in the beautiful space and having the warm feeling. And second of all, just knowing long-term we're creating a sustainable, clean space to be a part of the good neighbor, part of the good community. If you have not been able to make it to the 716 Southeast Grand Building yet, I would like to extend an invitation to check out this beautiful work Bora has done, and to participate in some of our programming, come to a book launch, come to a story time if you have children, and writing classes. And if nothing else, just come pick up a book and enjoy a cup of coffee. I would brag, humble brag, that our cinnamon plum syrup has been named one of the best specialty coffees of this season. So come out and check it out. There's also spicy ginger, my favorite. And I look forward to seeing you in the space.
Thank you so much, Ray. Every time I walk into the space, I'm excited by how it's being used. You know, the crowd seems to grow each time I'm there. I went to have lunch with a friend recently, and we walked in and we couldn't find a place to sit. So to me, that feels like a really good measure of success, that this is a place that people want to be. So as Ray said, if you haven't been, please stop by. And I just want to thank the team. I want to thank ETO, thank all of you for being here.